సతీష్ ఒకసారి పిలుస్తారు. సతీష్ ఒకసారి. Okay guys, am I audible to the last row? Yeah. Okay, so what is that we have done in integration so far? We were బాబోయ్ మీ జీమెయిల్ ఇక్కడ ఓపెన్ చేసి పెట్టారా? గుడి గంటలాగా మోగుతానే ఉంటాయి ఇంకా. Okay, so as an integration process, now we are able to compile the code, test the code, right? Do quality analysis, right? Show the test results, right? There are a couple of things left. One is whatever we have built, okay, we can't put it in Jenkins server. Not a right place to be in. If you build once in a while, it's okay if you put the archive the artifacts. But if you are building regularly, where you have night builds, day builds, and all of that, it becomes very much important for us to put the build in some other place which is meant to be for storing builds. Yes, daily build chestunama, day builds and night builds. So day builds, what is that we have triggered? Hourly. And what is the night build? We'll have once in a day. So totally we have 25 builds per project per day. Now you can think when the company has multiple projects. So what would happen? It would explode. The number of builds which we are going to have is prone to increase. 1 minute, let me ask whether am I audible or not. Guys, am I audible over the web? Okay. పనిచేస్తలేదా? Okay, so 25 builds per day, and basically that is only for one project, and one project might have multiple artifacts. So how are you going to store all of this? Okay, there are many ways companies do follow. For example, in our company we don't use any external stuff. We have our NetApp filer, okay, or SAN or NAS kind of systems where we'll have a deliverables folder and we'll try to put all of in there with the date and folder timestamp. Okay, but for some companies it becomes extremely important not to do that. Okay, not to do that, so that they take external repository management, right? So external repository management is nothing but daily storing results of every build being stored at some place which everyone can log in and access. The advantage of that approach is tomorrow whenever you want to make a build out of the version which was built 10 days ago, that is possible. So if you put in Jenkins, is it not possible? It is possible, but the problem is whatever you are building in Jenkins, where is it storing? In the Jenkins home directory. So that means that you are storing in the same system, which means single point of failure. If that system is lost, all of your builds are lost. So that's why it doesn't make sense to have everything at one machine. So we try to put the builds in other system. Okay, so many companies even follow just copying the artifacts into some shared folder. Okay, they create a directory with the date and timestamp, done. Okay, but especially for languages like Java and .NET, okay, or some other managers like Python or NPM, people also tend to use repository manager because it is very easy for them to manage versions. So for that there are many tools, and Artifactory or JFrog is one of them. Artifactory and JFrog are the same thing. Okay, so JFrog is an open source version, whereas Artifactory is a paid version of it, right? So what they come up with is they come up with language specific repositories. For example, in Java they have something called as Maven repository and Gradle repository. When you put in your share folder, you don't do all of that. You just try to create a folder path and in there it is present. That's it. That's how simple it is. But when it comes to Artifactories, there are some language specifics also. For example, we are going to learn Docker very soon. You can also push your Docker images to Artifactory. You can push your .NET artifacts. You can push your Python artifacts, and Artifactory handles every language's artifacts differently. That's the whole point, right? So we use Artifactory just for archiving whatever we have built. What is an advantage of that? Because tomorrow you can make out any build combination. Tomorrow you can make out any build combination. And let me tell you one last use case out of it. So let us assume in your company there are 3 teams. Okay, you will have these kind of teams. They might have different names, but I'm trying to tell the teams. Okay, so the team here is SDK or framework team. So what this team does is this team builds reusable libraries. So they build the components which are not applications. Whatever they have built will be used by the applications which that company is developing. So let us assume that this company is developing an e-commerce project and also some financial process. Okay, so they might use some of the work that is done by SDK teams, and even these people might do that. So how do you bring whatever the SDK team has built in here? Artifactory, Nexus. This is an extra advantage. You can give in Maven, I said, right, we will have dependencies. So in Maven, you can say that I have a dependencies with something present there. That's it. So this team will be developing and these guys would be using it. That's one more advantage of it. Will this case be present in any organization or every organization? I'm not sure. But you go to any product based organization, you will have such team. Because product based organizations generally build multiple product lines, and there will be one framework team or a core team which is responsible for giving reusable libraries. In that case, it becomes more important. Fine. So it is just not for release management. It has one more use case to it also. So in the company, for their internal activities, they can share the binaries, whatever they are building. Right. So this project, whenever they are using Maven or whatever technology it is, let us assume Maven, since we have been spoken about it. In Maven, in the dependencies section, okay, they will give info about whatever is present over here. So whenever they do MVN package, it used to download from the internet, right? But now it will not download from the internet. It will download from this team's Artifactory server. That's the whole point. So this is what it is all about. One is for storing the repository, storing for whatever you have built, and the next thing is to giving it to other teams. These are the 2 use cases of it. Fine. Now, when it comes to installation of Artifactory, right? As I said, installations I'm not doing. There is a document that is present. Installation of Artifactory is also much like SonarQube. You will have to download a file and you have to start one simple shell file. That's how simple it is. All right. So what I've done is I have an image and I'll be using that image which has already Jenkins and Artifactory installed in the same server. Okay. Even if it is on a different server, it doesn't matter. Let us try to configure it. Okay. And in the last batch, whenever I was doing it, I think I've tried it 3 times and I was not successful. Because the problem with UI is you don't remember the exact clicks and all of that stuff. Right. So out of that experience, I've become a bit more careful about this. So configuring it is, I will not say it is difficult, but you have to follow certain steps. If you don't follow, you'll not be able to push it to the Artifactory server, right? So for that, there is a document which I have already written, but this is what it is. Okay. So this document speaks about configuring the Artifactory server and then using it in your Jenkins job. Okay. There are 2 ways of using it, and I try to put 2 ways. Right. And there is also a pipeline way. I have not documented the pipeline way. I think you can Google it if you want. Right. In Google, if you pipeline, you will have something like with Artifactory, and then you have to give a name of your server. That's it. Right. So these are the steps. Now let us go ahead and then discuss about how do we do this. Right. Okay. So is the purpose of Artifactory known? So what are we trying to avoid now? We don't archive the artifacts into the local Jenkins now. We push the artifacts into some external server which is called as Artifactory. Okay, fine, makes sense, right? So let me go ahead. Launch the instance, my AMI. Let me take a huge one because you have two beasts in there. One is Artifactory, the other one is Jenkins. Both are resource intensive. So I'm taking 16 GB RAM. Okay. So you don't worry about all of this. For you, even T2 micro will work. I'm taking these machines because I want time to be saved. Not, I don't want to see hourglasses around here. That's it. Okay. So I'll call this as, okay. So while it is launching, let me just get on to this. These were the steps which I have followed. So I've given you the link also. So these are the steps which I have followed. And Artifactory by default will be hosted on a port which is 8081, right? And the default username and password, if I'm not wrong, will be admin and password. Yes, admin and password ena ఇంతకు ముందు చేసిన వాళ్ళకి అడుగుతున్నాను, కొత్తగా వచ్చిన వాళ్ళకి కాదు. Otherwise I have to Google it, man. I don't want to. Pardon me? కాన్ఫిడెంట్ గా చెప్పండి సార్, చెప్పేది ఉంటే. తప్పైనా కాన్ఫిడెన్స్ పోకూడదు. అడ్మిన్ అది సోనార్కి అనుకుంటున్నాను. లెట్ ఇట్ బి, ఏమవుద్ది, మా అయితే ఒకసారి ఫెయిల్ అవుద్ది అంతే. ఓకే. So let us look into this machine. 8080, I think I will have Jenkins. It will take time. 8081. And also let me log in into this machine. And you don't need to log in generally if you have already the machine, but I'm just trying to see whether the services are started or not. We got it, right? Yeah. Startup will take time, right? If I use T2 Micro, it will take more time. Yeah. Admin and password is a default thing. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So this is your page, and this is a server which can be used to use repositories. It will have all sorts of backups, replications, and you can do all of that. So now this is the home page. These are your repositories. Okay. Your artifacts if you want to search, builds which you have created, okay, and then basically the repositories. Okay, this is the administration page. So local, and if you want to add, you can add repositories, and whenever you add repositories, you are seeing a lot of things disabled. Right, it is disabled because it is JFrog. If it is Artifactory, all of that will be enabled because this is a free version, right? So if you are seeing over here, I can use it for Bower packages, I can use it for Chef Supermarket packages, I can use it for many different things, right? But our focus is right now on Maven. That's a different story. But if you see over here, you have hell lot of things. You have even RPMs, the Red Hat package manager, right? You have Debian packages, you have Docker packages, you have Gradle, you have all the things. Okay, so why people generally use Artifactories? If they buy this server, they can use it for any language. Okay, and there is one thing called as generic. So if you don't know what your language depends on, this is generic, and generic is much like folder itself. Putting a repository in the generic or basically in the folder is much like you are just giving the container, it will dump in one folder, that's it, it will not have any intelligence. But if you use Maven, it will have Maven's intelligence. If you use Gradle, it will know how to basically work out with Gradle. That is a specific tools intelligence. So you can select this Maven package and give some name to it. So let us assume test Maven. Now come down, it will ask you multiple different things. What are the different things which you want to configure? Okay, so I don't want to really look into any other thing, I just have given a name. Done. Okay, similarly you can create local is something which will store here. If you have another basically if you want to create another configuration of or basically mirror of some other stuff, you can also create something called as a remote repository. But generally we don't create remote repositories on the servers. We do create local repositories which will act remote for other servers, because this is our primary server. If it was our secondary server, it would have been a different case. This is our primary server. So now what we want to do is, we want whenever we build our project from our Jenkins to end up here. Okay, in SonarQube yesterday we have seen a link, right? And if we were clicking on that link, it was taking to the code review result of whatever has happened. Similarly, when I build in Jenkins, I want to see a link of Artifactory over there, which would help me in basically navigating to this, and whenever someone wants to download it, they will download it from here. So I'm not having any builds in Jenkins anymore. Fine, shall we configure that? Yes, is it clear? So why do we use Artifactory? Yeah, is it a mandatory step? Not really. It might depends on your company's needs. Company might say that just dump it to a folder, I'm okay with that. Okay, but whenever your company is doing loads of projects and loads of reusable stuff, then you might need some sort of repository, right? Okay, now let me see whether if it is configured over here, I will use the other server. If it is not configured, let me use this server. Okay, come on. Yeah, Artifactory is configured. Let me do one thing. Let me use the Jenkins from the other machine and this machine as an Artifactory repository for it, so that we'll come to know the configuration also, right? So we have one more Jenkins server also, right? So where is my Jenkins? Yeah, I can use this. Fine. So HTTP. Okay. So this machine doesn't know anything about Artifactory now. Okay. So now first is I want this machine to know about Artifactory. So for that, in the UI level, I want this machine to know about Artifactory from the UI level. So first thing which I need to do is I need to install a plugin. I need to install a plugin, and we know how to do that. So let us go to the manage Jenkins, manage plugins. Okay, go to the available and search for something called as Artifactory. You will have a plugin called as Artifactory. Select this, install without restart. Okay, is it done? Now let me go to the manage Jenkins. I need to tell this Jenkins system where the Artifactory server is. So manage Jenkins, configure system. If you install that plugin, you should be seeing a new UI over here which speaks about Artifactory. So in this page, I have avoided this because there it was, the information was already present. Now I am trying to create the same information over here. So add an Artifactory server. Okay. So what is the server ID? This is a name, just like yesterday we have given a name called as Sonar. You can give any name over here. I am calling it as Artifactory. And then here you need to give URL of your Artifactory. Okay. So what is the URL of my Artifactory? Man. Just copy this part. Okay. Your username and password, whatever it makes sense. So since I'm using default, it's okay. I'm using it over here. Now scroll down a bit. Okay. And then there is something called as test connection. Please do this. If it is not working, then there is no point of basically trying anything out. Yeah, it says found. So we are good. Save. Fine. Yeah. Now let me go ahead and add a new item. And over here I'll be building a project. Okay. First is I'll be building Spring Pet Clinic. I am taking a new project type which is called as Maven project. Then I'll be taking a freestyle project. I'll be doing the two different things. One is you can take Maven project. Whenever you install Artifactory plugin, you will get this project. This project knows about Maven. It knows about Artifactory servers. It knows about multiple things. So one way is use this. The other way is, since the normal project doesn't know about it, go with freestyle and do some extra steps. So let us do both. So I'm selecting a Maven project. Okay. And here, let me search for Spring Pet Clinic. GitHub. I just want a URL, right? So I'm taking this URL. Right. So, man. Okay. The repository URL is whatever it is. All right. We are not very much concerned towards basically the project, because we have to do MVN package or some sort of that stuff. Right. Now, it is asking, do you want to have any pre-steps, or do you want to have, what are your build steps? So first is, this is for sure. I want to use package. Now, if you see in the Maven, in the build step, we are not seeing any other things. In the Maven, we are not seeing, in the build step, we are not seeing in execute shell and all of that, because our project type was Maven project. Whenever you have selected the project, you have said that this project I'm going to use for Maven. So build, you cannot change. Okay. So if you wanted to execute any shell scripts and all of that stuff, you will have something called as pre-build step. So for example, if you want to do any activity before you do MVN package, so go to pre-build step. Now post steps. Run if the build succeeds or whatever it is. All right. And basically, oh no, one more thing. This is where I forget. Okay, this is a step which you will use. Resolve artifacts from artifactory. This is for this kind of a project. So for example, yours is a e-commerce project and you are using the repositories from SDK, then you will be doing this. All right, fine. Let me go ahead with the documentation once. This UIs, I have a bad habit, guys. I forget the UI stuff. I don't remember the stuff. So let me just look at it. Configure system. We have done this. Maven, git, package. In post steps, you should be getting deploy artifacts to Artifactory. Am I getting it? Yeah. Deploy artifacts to Artifactory or Maven repository. So artifact. Now, whenever you have this, right? So one thing is you can enter the values. Please don't do that. The other thing is just click on refresh over here and let it load the values. So in this case, what you will get is you will get only the list of repositories which you have access on. Okay, please don't forget that refresh option. You can type the same thing also, example local repo, but generally what happens is whenever you type, sometimes you might miss something out and unnecessarily you might be seeing errors. So use that refresh button and you will have many things. Whatever repositories which you have over there, you can select anything. So let me just use the default stuff. And now click on, okay, save. Are you getting some UI there? Artifactory build info, just like what has happened to yesterday when we have seen the Sonar Cube. Let me now build this. Since it is building for the first time in the project, it has to download a lot of stuff. But after this build is successful, you should be able to get a link. And on that link, if you click, you should be able to see whatever you have built. That's the whole point. Okay. So till now, let me look at the questions because it will take some time. Where we can customize port. So any customizations of the port, right, or any application, generally for that application you will have configuration files. In some applications it might be CFG. Okay, and in this Sonar Cube and in Artifactory you will have, okay, in Sonar Cube we have that sonar.properties. Here you will have Artifactory properties file. Just go in there and change the ports, right? No one will change the port, by the way. They will use a reverse proxy generally. They will build one reverse proxy on top of it. No one will change the ports by default, right? Fine. What intelligence does JFrog Artifactory has? It knows how to deal with Maven. Okay, if someone uses Artifactory dependency, it knows how to give and it knows how to take. It knows how to give and it knows how to take. If you use a folder, it will not know all of that. For a folder, the only thing it knows is files and directories. But here it will know whether it Artifactory, whatever you are downloading, is a POM file or is it an artifact, and it would store in a respective folder structure how a Maven repository is supposed to be. That's the intelligence what it has. If we give our details, is it not harmful? To what? To connect AWS Freeter. Oh, it is not at all harmful because your data is already there with Amazon. Are you not doing Amazon shopping? There don't you give the card? అంటే షాపింగ్ ఇవ్వచ్చు కానీ చదువుకి ఇవ్వకూడదా? So it doesn't matter. Okay, and by the way, Amazon company will never be involved in data theft. They have very huge revenues out of many different things. They are not like Aadhaar cards. Okay, they are not built with 12-inch thick walls so that the data is not lost. ఇదేం 12-inch thick walls అనుకుంటున్నారా? మన భారతదేశ మంత్రి చెప్పాడు, ఆధార్లో డేటా పోతుందంటే లేదు 12 ఇంచులు గోడ ఉంది ఆధార్ మీద. That's the quality of the ministers which we have. Okay, so giving your credit card details is absolutely signed by there are many organizations which have done what you call, they get the certification from. So giving credit card details or debit card details to Amazon doesn't haunt you anyway. And by the way, even if you give the account, it is used only for one thing, initially to cut 2 rupees from your account, and every month whenever you want to pay the bill, by the default setting is basically you have to click on pay now. Okay, now I think they have changed it. So whenever you're creating an account, see whether you want to enable the auto pay or not. But for all the older accounts, we had to go to there and you have to click on pay now, and every month you have to do the transaction. So it is not storing actually much of a data from your side. Okay, yeah, you need to. Who will give 1 year of Linux server for free, sir? Just tell me another person on the earth who does it without taking your card details. No one does it. Forget about no one. Will we give it? So it is not possible. Bank details are absolutely mandatory. Whether AWS is a paid service, AWS has certain areas which are free for us to use, and that is enough for us for practice. If you practice more, probably it might be paid. But even if you practice rigorously, your monthly bills will never cross 300 to 400 bucks. I'm speaking about Indian currencies, not dollars. All right. So fine. Customization of the port can be done by configuration files. In Artifactory documentation, there will be Artifactory properties file. Go ahead and change it, but no one does it. People generally tend to use a reverse proxy around that. Right? Is there an option to store normal and production artifacts separately? You will have different repos. Okay. So in Maven, there is a convention called as snapshot. There is a convention called as snapshot. Whenever you are seeing a name of the repository or name of the build as a snapshot, you are saying that it is a debug stuff. And whenever you are seeing a name called as release in there, you will have a release repository. That's a convention, right? So you will be creating one more repository for release. You will not mess release and the daily builds in one stuff. No. Okay. But by the way, you can stage your builds. Let us see what has happened here. Okay. I'll not get into this because this we know what it does, MVN package and all of that. So let me just see what is in here. Are you seeing the stuff? All right. It says this is the place where you got your build from. Okay. These were your published modules. Okay. The environment was this. Issues are this. Licenses is all fine. Okay. Build info JSON file. It will tell you all the information of your build, where it was being built from. Okay. And if you want to basically look into the files, basically you can look into from your repositories also. Okay, this is your repository which will give you a tree view. So what is it we have built now? You will be seeing everything whatever it has tried to build. This is all the tree view of your structure, right? So whenever you want this to be reused, you can reuse, you can download it, you can export it, you can do all sorts of the stuff which is possible from Artifact. So you will publish your result from Jenkins to Artifactory. So now there is no need for archiving the artifacts, right? Because archiving the artifacts will go into the same Jenkins machine. But now what we are trying to do, we are building in one machine and we are storing our artifacts on a different machine, right? So now in the same way, let me quickly create the other mode, right? So new item, and let me build something else. GitHub, some small project one, Spring Boot samples. Okay. Hopefully it builds. Now you just say boot example, some project, whatever it is. Okay. I am not putting build triggers over there, which is schedule, because these projects I don't want it to be automatically built. I want to just configure them, right? So source code management, the repository of where my git is. Okay. Build triggers. This will tell you when the build has to happen. Not interested in this at this moment. Build environment. Okay. So in build environment, are you seeing anything about Artifactory? Yes. So please select over here. If you don't do this, you will not be able to basically do the Artifactory management. All right. So now let me do the same thing as we did in the last case. Refresh repositories. Since in the last case we have sent to example, let me send to my Maven rep. You can choose whatever it is. All right. So now build. Okay. Invoke Artifactory Maven. Do we have root level POM? Yes. POM.xml. And what is the goal? Package. All right. Let me cross check with the document. As I said, whenever it is this, I generally tend to go to the documentation. Just see. Fine. Okay. Man. It defaults to pom.xml. So there whether I write pom.xml or don't write pom.xml, it is same. Right. So let me see. So this also we got Artifactory build info. Now let me go ahead and build this project. Okay. So once this build is successful, similarly like what we have seen in the other case, we should be able to see a link of where our builds are. But for that, the project has to be successful. But for that, the project has to be successful. Yeah. Artifactory build info. All right. Artifactory release promotion. So you can promote whatever you have built to the release at some other Artifactory in the same stuff. I said right. You generally don't have the same repos for releases. You'll maintain a debug or a snapshot repository and a release repository. For whatever build which you think is good, you will promote this. So this is fine. This is generally done by the release management team. It is not our responsibility mostly. Okay. And there is one more thing which is called as push to bin tray, but this is no longer valid. Okay. So bin tray is literally deprecated by Artifactory itself. So that's the reason why you are not seeing that. Earlier we used to have this one application from JFrog or Artifactory which is called as bin tray. Now it is no longer valid. Just do tell this Artifactory build info, look it in the tree view. If you are finding it, you are good. Okay. And from here, any member of your team, okay, the only thing we have to do is in your offices the things are different in this case only because for the Jenkins machine we don't use admin. For the Jenkins they will create a Jenkins user, so your password will be different. And for every developer or every team member they will have their username and password into the server because they integrate with something called as LDAP or Active Directory. So that's the reason why we will have basically all the users, and every user will be able to use this. But in my case, I've just created a default user of admin and with the username called as password. But in your offices, the external stuff is you would have basically all the users being added. Or you can go to the administration section and add users also, just like how you add to the other systems. Create a user. Okay. In Jenkins also you can do that. In Jenkins also you can do that. But even in Jenkins, the reality in enterprises, it is mostly linked to Active Directory. It is mostly linked to Active Directory. Fine. So are we clear till this point? So we don't archive the artifacts now. We just publish them to external server. And what is the external server which does release management or repository management for that, which we know JFrog or Artifactory, whatever that makes sense to you, right? Fine. There is one more server exactly like this, which is called as Nexus. With the same knowledge of whatever you have tried, you can easily try Nexus also. Okay, because for me it is not possible to try every other version in the classroom. I have to take either Nexus or JFrog. People are tending towards JFrog. The only reason for this is JFrog supports multiple languages, whereas Nexus is primarily focused on Java-based languages. So that's why it makes more sense for the organizations to think of a solution which can give them more. Okay, so they can use Artifactory as a satellite server for Debian packages, satellite server for RPM packages. It can be used for all different sorts of purposes. People are basically focusing towards this because it gives them more for almost the same price. That's the difference. So now let me look at questions. Is there any I think I've said you right. So there is nothing called as release or production. That is the naming convention which you follow. The only thing which you can do is you can promote. So for whatever debug build which you have built, if you think that that is something where I have to give a release, you can promote it to the production artifact. So in reality, what people generally tend to maintain is for day builds they will have one repo, for night builds they will have one repo, internal releases repo, and then external releases repo, which is production for your case. Okay, day builds and night builds are generally not promoted, they are built. Okay, and from the night build, if you want to take it to the internal release, that is promotion. From the internal release to the customer release, promotion again. Right, that's the what people tend to follow, because you cannot make a customer release directly. After you build a night build, there might be some testings that would happen, and when the testers approach, then you probably might manually do it. Okay, companies like Amazon and Flipkart are doing automatically. They basically take it from Jenkins or CI tool to production, but that is not reality in 99.99% of the companies throughout this world. Only 0.01% of the companies have that kind of test cases or have that kind of flexibility. But for all of them, there is some manual process that is involved for basically going into the production. Right? Okay. So do we need to maintain in different systems, or can we maintain? Generally, we tend to maintain in different systems because we don't want one server's failure to impact other. One server being busy impacting other. So generally, we tend to have a different servers for every activity. Can we build for other languages also? You can use the same steps. The only thing is you have to replace Maven. So for example, in the .NET project, I need .NET build environment. For Java, I needed to install Maven on the Jenkins server. Similarly, if I want to build .NET project, I need to install MS Build or .NET Framework over there. .NET Framework and MS Build tools. And then I'll be following those steps. Right? So don't stick to a technology, man. So I have taken the example of Java because that is what is mostly asked and mostly done. That's the only reason. Okay, so if you have to build Node.js application, tomorrow you have joined the job and your responsibility is to do a release management or basically build and release for kind of activities for Node.js. What will you do? What are your steps? I will go and sit with the developer team to find out what are the steps that are need to be taken by the for the release management. Generally, you will have different commands. They'll be executing something like npm run or gulp run or whatever it is. They might use different set of tools. In Node.js, we have many tools. Make a list of them. Install them on your build server. Give them the access of that application, whatever you install, to the Jenkins user. And then you have to just copy that in your execute shell command. That's it. So from language to language, if you know the build steps, it is all about basically putting them in an order. That's it. Okay. So in this project also, if you have remembered, we have started from the case where we have installed, where we have built manually, and then we have came to this. So don't forget that approach and remember this commands and artifactory. If you forget this approach, all of this is waste. All of the journey till here is waste. So whatever we have built till now is continuous integration pipeline for a Java project which uses Maven. For a Java project which uses Gradle, you will find out what are the Gradle steps. The only stuff that changes is how to package in Gradle, how to execute unit tests in Gradle. How to package in Gradle and how to execute unit tests in Gradle. That's it. So similarly, if they ask you to do it for Python package, how to build Python, whenever we build Python, what will be the package which will be getting it, in which folder it will be present. So where do I need to take it and copy and paste it? That's it. Done. You don't need to do anything beyond this. Fine. So don't stick to a technology. All right, don't stick to it. Definitely don't stick to a technology. So for that reason itself, from when I take cloud DevOps, I'll not be using Java. We have used Java, right? So let us use something else. Let us use Node.js. Okay. or let us use any other technology. I don't know what I am going to use, but let the time decide about it. Okay, it has nothing to do with technology. It is the steps, installations, access to the Jenkins user. Those are the primary things. And then in some cases, for doing these kind of activities, you might need to install some plugins, configure the server locations. That is anyway all documented. So if you go to the Google and say that integrating Artifactory to the Jenkins, you will find hell lot of information. And all of these steps are already documented over there. Fine. Okay. So up to what extent can we store in JFrog? JFrog has no limits. It is your hard disk which should have limits. JFrog really doesn't have any reservation saying that it is till this point, because it stores and on a one of your system. It is your system's disk space which is basically stopping it. The JFrog will not do any sort of limitations on storage space, right? Gradle is for Java or for iPhone drive. Gradle is for Java, but it is majority used on Android systems. I don't know the reason for it. It would work equally well for web projects also, but Gradle is something which has been adopted by the Android developers very much. All right. Yeah. Okay. Please share the configuration of Nginx reverse proxy. Okay. I'm not going to share it. Just see what I'm doing it. Okay. And I want you to do the same thing. This I've discussed in Ansible as well as Chef class. Deploy Node.js app to remember this query. Okay. And in here, you will be seeing a DigitalOcean's article. Select this. Scroll down. Okay. Are you seeing setup reverse proxy? Yeah. Here you will have all the steps. Okay. For Apache steps, yesterday I have shown you, but I don't personally, I prefer Nginx for reverse proxy. All right. Both are free versions. So here what you need to do is you need to change one configuration file and you need to give http colon Jenkins servers address colon 8080. If you want to use a reverse proxy for Artifactory, give the Artifactory server's IP address colon 8081. Done. That's it. That's what you are supposed to do. So just remember this, right? Okay. Fine. Any other questions in the classroom? Yes. Hmm. Hmm. No. Binaries will never go in Git. You should not also. We will label it. Tag, Git tag. That's it. That's what a release management for us is. Okay. With respect to source code. With respect to binaries, Artifactory or Nexus. If you don't have Artifactory and Nexus, then probably you might have zip a folder and place it at some location. That's a different story. But if you have Artifactory in Git, whatever release which you are making, we'll just make a tag. Git tag and whatever release name which you have. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. You don't need to do any integration because that is all dependent on Maven. So whenever you are doing a Maven package, it is going to the internet and downloading it, right? If you say that I want to resolve the dependencies from Artifactory, you are not changing anything in Artifactory. You are changing Maven's configuration. So yes, I'm telling you about the same thing. So whenever you say that I want to resolve dependencies from Artifactory, whenever you say MVN package, MVN will not go to the internet. It will always ask your Artifactory server. So I want this dependency. So your Artifactory should give this now. If you don't do that, by default, it will go to the internet. That's the difference. So the place where you download those Maven repositories, that changes. That's it. That is resolving dependencies from Artifactory. That is also required. Let me tell you one more example around it. Let us assume that you are using a Finacle project or some sort of a project. You are not supposed to use anything. You will have a restricted versions of some Java libraries which you are supposed to use. Then you cannot use the external repository. You have to use the Artifactory itself or Nexus, whatever it is. All right. Yeah. I will not do it like that. I will use Maven dependency, and in the Maven dependency, I'll be giving the name of SDK project type which they are building. If I use output folder wise, then I don't need to use Maven at all. I can go with the older build systems. Because if I'm telling this build is the basic dependency, but whoever builds in my company, it should work. Yes or no? I cannot go and tell to every developer saying that, okay, there is a folder over there, copy into your class path and then build your project. That doesn't make sense. So that's why we'll prepare a POM file. And in that POM file, I'll be telling that we have a dependency on SDK. And now whenever you do MEN package, it will be going to your Artifactory server and downloading it from there. If you don't have network connection, it will fail. Otherwise, in all the other cases, it should work. That's how you do it. అందుకనే output files copy చేయం. Output file copy బాగుంటుంది ఒక సర్వర్ వరకు. But imagine you have 500 developers. Then it is nonsense, right? Okay. Yes. How to? There is nothing promotion is nothing but copy paste into a different folder. Ante you have two folders. One is called as let us assume one is called as day builds, the other one is called as testing release. You will take a version, you will copy a folder from there to here. That's it. Promotion lo antaku minchi adbhutam em jaragadu, kaakapothe peru baaguntadi ventani. That's it. And what it does is, since Artifactory has a database, the date when you did this promotion, it will be stored in the database, so that you can go back and find out in history. When we manually copy and paste folders, we don't retain history. Artifactory can retain history. Antaku minchi em, right? And by the way, those managements are not done by you. Those are basically done by the people on the top ladder, because we for that there has to be approval from the testing team, there has to be approval from various sets of people, and then the release management is done. So generally not done by DevOps. Okay, we'll be given because whenever you are trying to do that, we will be told that this is a repository where you need to build your package. Do you have a package over here? Deploy it. So that's how we will get the work. We will not be getting the work for promoting. No, promoting is a managerial responsibility. Right. Okay. It seems 1 minute, Amma. Unable to hear audio. Is it the same case for others? Now fine. ఒక క్వశ్చన్ చెప్పి మీరు తీసుకుంటారు. How are we pushing our packages from Jenkins? How do we upload playbooks and cookbooks? Man, Usha, you are always getting out of context. I'm speaking about Java and you are speaking about Ansible and Chef. Okay, so let me simplify it. Let us assume that you want to push the Ansible stuff. What do you mean by push here? Are you speaking about git push, or are you speaking about deployment? If you are speaking about deployment, I have not started deployment yet. Let me make it clear. I'm speaking about continuous integration. All right. So let me finish it and then I'll speak about deployment. Right. But if you're asking about git push, it is the same thing. It has no differences. All right. Fine. Okay. Yes. In this project, because we need to do similar thing on the cloud. So whatever we have done over here, yeah, we have to do this. But for there it will not be, I would not say that it is it will not take this much of time because the tools are already built there. But if you don't understand this process and directly go there, it sounds like a mess. Okay, so if you are using git push, right, it has nothing to do with Jenkins, because that is not CI. You are just using the version control system. You write your playbook and you commit your playbook. Done. Okay, after you commit your playbook, you generally don't build anything. Okay, so that's why it has no relation with whatever we have done. After build get success, Artifactory contains only snapshot. I mean, it will contain war file, it will contain POM file. The POM file is an example of how to use your war file in someone else's code. మీరు ఏదైతే బిల్డ్ చేశారో దాన్ని నేను వాడుకోవాలంటే ఎలా వాడుకోవాలనడానికి ఒక POM file జనరేట్ అవుతుంది. So it will have your artifacts as well as POM file. That POM file will give you the basic demonstration of details of whatever you have built, so that if someone wants to use it, he will be taking that names in his dependencies. Fine. Okay, so people have been asking me about continuous deployment. Let's get started about it. Okay, so what is continuous deployment now? Continuous delivery, not deployment. Deployment is too much of a nonsense. Deployment is too much for us. Okay, so you cannot go to CI 0 to CD in 14 days. Okay, it's not like English to Telugu 14 రోజుల్లో అలా అవ్వదు. It takes a lot of process. So I'm not discussing anything about continuous deployment in this class, because that is like a bouncer. You have to know many algorithms, many strategies around it. Okay, but for the people who are interested, who already know something about integration and delivery very well, just look at these two deployment types. You can Google around it: blue, green, and canary. Okay, find out what are the YouTube videos or whatever stuff it is in there. In this class I'll not be covering it, because it is on top of our head. Okay, so now continuous delivery. What is continuous delivery? Now whatever you have built, you are deploying it onto some server for whatever purpose it is. I will be deploying it onto the test server so that the testers can use it. I'll be deploying it on the Selenium or UI automation kind of a server so that the Selenium tests can be triggered. So whenever I am taking whatever I have built in my project and applying that onto my some server, I would call it as delivery. I would call it as delivery. Since I am doing that with every build or every day, okay, I am doing it continuously. That's the reason why I call it as continuous delivery. That's the reason why I would call it as continuous delivery. Now, to do continuous delivery, you will have external tool dependencies. So for the people who have started new, don't get confused with the tool names which I am telling right now, because we are prone to learn all of them. మనం నేర్చుకుంటాం వాటిని. So basically in the continuous delivery, there are a whole set of tools to choose from. So for example, what I can do is, if I want to prepare the environments in the cloud, I can go with CloudFormation. I can go with something like ARM templates, or I can use tools like Terraform. I can use tools like Packer, or if my system is already available, I might use something like Ansible or Chef, so that it would deploy my application and it would do whatever is needed for my application deployment to be triggered. So in this CD is the case where your Ansible, Chef, Ansible or Chef or Terraform or Packer will come in handy. Till here, no need of that. Till here, there is no need of that. Now, as a next step, whenever you want to take whatever you have built and deploy it onto some server, you need this. So, shall we do that? Okay. So for that, what I'd be doing is, let me go. I think I should have some server with Tomcat already installed. Yeah, it is running. Okay. So first thing is, I am using a shell script in the classroom. I'm using a shell script in the classroom. I would recommend for the people who have finished Ansible or Terraform or Chef or Packer to use whatever tool you know. Okay, because the steps don't change. Let me explain it. So I have a var file. Do you agree to that? So let me write down the steps. Manual deployment, because if I don't know this, I will not be able to do it from shell script. I will not be able to automate it. This is something which we have been learning, or we will be learning. So first what I need to do is, assuming it is I'm writing steps about Tomcat. If you want to deploy a website, your steps might be different, but always ensure you write something like this. Always ensure you write something like this. So what I need to do is, this process I will start assuming I have, okay, let me write the assumptions over here. Assumptions. Tomcat server already okay. 1 minute, guys. I just give some tabs over here so that everyone is okay. Tomcat server is already created. We have user created, for example, Jenkins on Tomcat server with all permissions. So this is my assumption. So what I have done is I have a server where the Tomcat is already installed, and I have a user. The user can be anything. I'm just calling the user as Jenkins because we are deploying it from Jenkins. You can call the user anything. Okay. Generally, in your offices, you will have something called as service accounts here. I'm calling it as Jenkins user. In enterprise world, we generally tend to call them as service accounts. So you will have a service accounts which has permissions on your necessary folders. So what are the necessary folders? The necessary folder in the case of Tomcat is there is a folder called as web apps. So now let us look at the steps. Copy the war file into Tomcat directory. I will tell what the Tomcat directory is. Okay, and in there you will have a folder called as web apps. Okay, so the Tomcat directory generally will be in var lib Tomcat, and here you will have version of Tomcat. Like if you are using Tomcat 7, the folder's name is Tomcat 7. If you are using Tomcat 6, the folder's name is Tomcat 6. So since 8 is what it is, I'm just writing 8. So based out of the version of the Tomcat, you might have a different folder. So this is a folder in Ubuntu. Okay, in Red Hat, if I'm not wrong, it goes into user share. Just Google it. Okay, so in here you will have web apps, and you have to copy your war file, whatever you have built. So we will be copying our game of life war file into this location. Simple. Okay, now tell me how can I do that? Where is my war file now? In the Jenkins server. Is the Jenkins and the Tomcat server same? No. So how do I copy it? There are many approaches. So probably you might put it in the shared directory which is accessible to both of the people, and then they try to access it. But for that, who will trigger the script on that machine? Okay, so the steps which we need to do is we need to do the following. Just do something called as SEP. Okay, SCP. What is SCP? SCP secure copy. Copying a file from one machine to other machine generally works on Linux. But here also we have a problem. Whenever you do SCP, it will ask you to enter password. Yes. And whenever you are automating, you cannot intervene in between. Jenkins, while you are executing this, will not tell that, oh, on that machine it is asking password. Can you enter it now? No, Jenkins will not do that. So you have to tell it upfront that how to achieve this. So for that, what I will do is, okay, I've documented it. What we will do is we will create a user. Create a user. That is a Jenkins user, whatever user it is. So create a user in Jenkins. So in this case, we need not worry about creating the user because we already have a user called as Jenkins. So then what we will do is we will create a key for this user. SSH keygen. For the people who have done Ansible, I think you know the steps. Okay. So then what I will do is I will use something called as SSH copy ID, and I will be copying the key which I have generated on my machine to the Tomcat server. Now what would happen is my two machines are authenticated. So I need not give username and password. I can simply use SCP command directly and give the IP address of the machine. Give the IP address of the machine. So that's it. So realize these steps, and there are many tools to realize these steps. And what I am interested in this class for today is shell script. Okay. So what are the two things which you need to know now? One is where is your artifactory? Where is your game of life.war file? And the next thing is where is your Tomcat server? Okay. The third thing, if you want, is you can tell what is the username, the Jenkins or whatever it is. Okay. So what I'll do is, let me go to this Jenkins server. Okay, not this one. Yeah, this itself. Yeah, I've already done it, but and it is also documented. Let me go into the build steps. This is my simple deployment script. I have written some just log statements, echo statements. They have no meaning. They are just to documentation. And then I've written just to tell who is the user who is executing it. I have executed who am I. You don't need to have those first three lines. Those are just for you to understand. Now the fourth step is simple scp command. In the scp command there is something called as artifact location. But what is that artifact location? Remember we have spoken about parameters. So I've created two parameters, two string parameters. One I call it as artifact location, the other one I call it as, so whoever is running this project needs to enter these two things. So he needs to tell what is the path of artifact and what is the Tomcat's IP address. So now let me show you what would happen if I try to run this project. Okay, you will get something like this. Before building this project, you need to pass these parameters. You need to tell where your gameoflife.var is. Let us assume that gameoflife.var is in var temp gameoflife.var. And what is the IP address of your Tomcat server? Let us assume it is 192.168.10.0. And now you click on build, your build will start. But if you don't enter these values, it will not start. So that's why we use these parameters. And now these are our parameters, right? And to use the parameter in your script, you have to use the dollar symbol. You have to use the dollar symbol. So that's why, what is the parameters name of here? Artifact location. And what is it? Tomcat underscore IP. Now let me come back to my steps. Are you seeing dollar artifact location and dollar Tomcat IP? Okay. What can you make as a variable is your choice, completely your choice. Okay. The username over here, I am not worried. But if your username is not Jenkins, then you have to tell -u and then tell what is the user's name which you want to get into. So that's altogether your choice. This is a very simple deployment, right? Very, very simple. What is that you are trying to do? You are trying to copy the artifact from one server to other server. Okay. Sometimes the things will not be this simple. Sometimes things might not be this simple. Then you will have a complicated shell script. But the problem with the shell script is it has many assumptions. Have you seen here the list? I had two assumptions and one step. Okay. So it doesn't make sense for me to use shell script for this. It makes more sense for me to try out with tools like Ansible or Chef. All right. So that's the reason where over here, rather than using this, I would have written, if for example, if I have an Ansible, I would have written something like Ansible hyphen playbook, okay, -i, whatever your inventory is, or if you have a default inventory, just go with that stuff, okay, and then deploy to Tomcat dot yml, and let us assume that there are some dynamic variables. So you will be writing -e, okay, and then you will be giving your variables name, whatever your Tomcat IP address and location of your folder, just pass it to this. That's it. So this, what it will do is it will try to set up a user also. If it is not present, it will try to set up a user also. You can write all of that stuff in here. And for the people who don't know Ansible, don't worry too much. That is just a deployment tool, that is just a configuration management tool which can effectively do whatever work which you can do. And the best part is, even if you try that script 1,000 times, it will not create any harm. So for example, I have to copy a file, okay, it will not try to copy everything. It will try to copy only if the file is not present, or only if both the files are present but the contents don't match. Only in these two cases it will try to copy. Those are the kinds of intelligences which tools like Ansible and Chef will have. So in this, when we write these kind of things, we will create basically a project like this, okay. And by the way, this project doesn't know what you are building. I have not written a project saying that where my path is gameoflife.var. No, I will not write it. I'll basically use a generic project. So the responsibility of this generic project is basically do whatever is being told. So this, what is this job's responsibility? This job's responsibility is copying the var file to some Tomcat server. It has some assumption, that's fine, but it can be used for any war file, right? Do you agree to that? నేను బిల్డ్ చేసిన గేమ్ ఆఫ్ లైఫ్ వార్కే ఉపయోగపడుతుందా లేదంటే దేనికైనా వాడుకోవచ్చా? That's the kind of a job which we will create, right? Now this job I want to call, when, after what, ఎప్పుడు కాల్ చేయాలి ఇది? After all of your CA steps, deploying to Artifactory is done, Sonar Cube is done, test results are being done. When everything happens, then you want to call this. Do you agree to that? So shall I do that? Yes. Yeah. AWS class might slightly be extended. Let me finish this point logically. It will not take much of a time. All right. So let me go ahead and create a new project. Okay. Let us assume that this project is Game of Life day builds. Freestyle project, pipeline project, your choice. Okay. Oh. Okay. So you will do whatever steps which it takes. For example, you will tell my project is Git. Okay. So let us assume that my project's path is whatever it is. Okay. My project's path is this. Okay. And you will come over here and you will say my build step is invoke whatever it is, invoke Maven or Artifactory is your choice. Then you will say package. So whenever you do package, you will know where the build will be generated. Now in the post build actions, what you do is you will just say basically I want to call other job. Okay. But there is one problem with this. There is by default you will have build other projects. By default you will have build other projects. This is good, but the problem is this will not take any parameters. It will not take any parameters. Do we have parameters in our second job? Yes. So for that you have to install a plugin called as parameterized plugin. Don't worry, it is all documented. I'll show you the link. Okay. It is basically parameterized plugin. Now whenever you have a parameterized plugin, what would happen is you will get this. Trigger a parameterized. So in here what you will get is you can pass multiple kinds of parameters. You can pass multiple kinds of parameters. You can pass saying that I want to pass all of my build parameters to the secondary project. By the way, it is not required for us. Next, you will pass the predefined parameters. This is what we would be writing. And in predefined parameters, you have to write a very simple stuff. What is your parameters name? Artifact location equals to, just write whatever your location is, and similarly Tomcat underscore IP equals to, and just write whatever your location is. Now what is that we are trying to do? From the job which you are building, we are giving a reference to the other job. Okay. So the project which I am building right now is Game of Life build or whatever it is. This becomes an upstream project, and deploy Tomcat becomes a downstream project. Are we getting it? Once this project is built, we are configuring this to build the other project. So Game of Life is upstream and deploy to Tomcat is downstream. So let me just open this first. So even here I have done that. So are you seeing downstream projects? So this project again might have linked to the other project. So whenever you go to that project, it might have one more downstream. It depends on how complicated you want to make your job. But you can link any number of projects. Let me click on configure section over here. I've done the same thing. Let me go to the post build actions directly. So what is that I'm building? So this project, whenever it is built, it will call the deploy to Tomcat project with the following details. Okay, and these details you can take it from parameters also. If you want for this project create parameters and you manually enter it, that is fine. నేను hard code చేశాను. You can say that this project is parameterized and enter two variables, and there rather than using 172.31.31.125 you can use $IP or some parameters name, right? So what would happen with this approach? Now from one project which is completely integration, now you are trying to add one more job to that which will do deployment. So for the people who are worried about the steps of it, don't worry. So there is something called as github.com/a2zone, all right, and in there is Jenkins zone. Get into the documents, click on this. Okay, so for the people who have learned Ansible, what will you do? In deploy to Tomcat, you will be writing, you will be calling your playbook. That's what you do. Okay, for the people who know Terraform, in deploy to Tomcat you will be using a Terraform script. If you want to use a Packer, in deploy to Tomcat you will have Packer script. That's it. But the whole stuff is this. Now in here I try to put as much information as I can with respect to SSH key generation. Okay, SSH copy ID, and then what are the two different things which I have put, and what was my script all about. So this is the same while basically writing this document itself I have created that job. So you can try it out on your machines also, but remember there are some assumptions which you have to make it out. Okay, so you need to have permissions for a user, and then you will be seeing something like a downstream project. Fine, good, yes. Okay, so last 5 minutes. Okay, it has nothing to do with the Jenkins. Okay, so any questions on this I'll be taking tomorrow. I'll start my class with questions. Please look at this document. Okay, github.com a2zone Jenkins zone. So that's the place where we will have our this documented. Okay, and Artifactory I have shown you already. Go to the blog, and in the blog you will have deploying Jenkins Artifactory guide or installation guide or something like that. Just click on that. Fine. Last thing, so for the people who are raising requests for Qt DevOps, okay, let it be online or offline, I'm not worried, but whoever is sending a mail, there is a slight change in process now. Okay, so this document will be sent to all of you guys, but I have created a GitHub page. Okay, so let me copy link. Whoever wants to raise any issues, or when I say issues, don't tell me recordings are not here and all. I'm not worried about managerial issues, I'm worried about technical issues. So for example, you might have, there was some questions that were asked to me like I am unable to see Git on my system and all of that, right? So go over here and just say new issue, and for you to do this you should have a GitHub account. You should have a GitHub account. So basically you will tell that just write the tools name. What is the tools where you are seeing problem? For example, Jenkins. Okay, like unable to start Jenkins. Okay, and first thing is I need two things whenever you do. One is a screenshot, the other one is logs if possible. So for example, I have a screenshot. So let me go into pictures. I want to use this. ఎందులో ఉంది? Okay, you can just drag and drop it. Log files also drag and drop it over here and write your issue description. Okay, and just click on submit new issue. Okay, that's a thing which I want you guys to do. And now these issues are visible to everyone. Okay, and after this please write a mail to Qt DevOps saying the link of the mail, saying that you have uploaded an issue. Okay, I've just done this. I've just created a dummy image with that zip file. Now it is not only me, anyone in the classroom who knows the solution can write it over it. Okay, I want all the others also to participate. Okay, or at least come to know the issues. If you can find someone who is also having the same issues. Okay, I don't want it in mail change and all of that headache. Let us make it transparent. Everyone who has an issue, if you send it in a mail, no one will answer it. That is for sure. In the mail, the only thing which I want is link of your issue. That's it. అన్ని ఇష్యూలు ఇక్కడే రాద్దాం. DevOps అవనివ్వండి, AWS అవనివ్వండి, everything. Okay, fine. Okay, so this will give you two things. For the people who have never worked, you will know how to raise issues, because you have to raise bugs in whatever stuff which you are doing. And now I also want others to contribute to this. I want it to be like a community. Okay, if this works out good, then I'll host a specific application only for our purpose. But let us start with this exercise. But one thing to remember, don't write generic messages, just write the tool's name also. I have written sample, right? So for example, if you are facing an issue in cloud, just name the service there, EC2 colon, okay, unable to log in into EC2 machine or something like that. Have a screenshot, have the stuff over here, and people will be participating, and only you can see your issue status also. So for example, whether the issue is closed, whether the issue is still running, all of that. So this is an open issue, right? So we'll get the list of open issues and closed issues, and I want people to participate. I can give the permissions. If you are, just try someone, just see whether you are able to comment on this open issue, okay, and see if you are able to comment it. You should be. If not, please tell me it. Okay, fine. Yes. So this is the process which I want to follow for both cloud and DevOps. Okay, going forward, let us create two different issue pages, one for cloud and one for DevOps. But for now, it's okay. Let us start with this. Okay, all the issues, but don't ask recordings here, and don't put your email IDs and your phone numbers over here. Please don't do that. This is a public site. Okay, stick to your problem. మీ కాంటాక్ట్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఏమైనా కావాలంటే మీ మెయిల్కి వస్తుంది ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్, రైట్? సో డోంట్ పుట్ యువర్ పర్సనల్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఓవర్ హియర్. జస్ట్ ఆస్క్, బీ రిలవెంట్ టు యువర్ టెక్నికల్ ప్రాబ్లం. ఓకే, రికార్డింగ్ బాగాలేదు, సతీష్ మంచి బట్టలు వేసుకోలేదు, అవన్నీ ఇక్కడ రాయకండి. ఓకే, సో అవి ఏమైనా ఉంటే మనం మాట్లాడుకుందాం తర్వాత. ఫైన్. ఓకే, so all the questions which you have right now, I think since I have exceeded the time, I will be solving it in tomorrow's class. Please, if you have typed the questions already, do take an effort of typing it again tomorrow in the classroom. I'll start with questions, and then what we will do is tomorrow we'll go into the distributed builds. Okay, and after that we have to look into cloud DevOps. So that's what we have left. All right, thanks guys, thanks for your time. Yeah.